Show.
On Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Paddy Power. Cheltenham's coming home.
Yes, you're very welcome along this morning to OTB AM. We're here with you all the way until 9:30. We'll be bringing the Cheltenham show itself from 9 o'clock. Owen's very excited over there. You found out which of the NBA players tested positive for coronavirus?
Rudy Gobert has tested positive for coronavirus. Just catching up on things this morning. He was in a press conference after testing positive, it seems, and touched all the pop shields and all the microphones. So he's taken this lightly, I think it's fair to say.
So explain that again, sorry.
There's a video of him in a Utah Jazz press conference touching all the mics in front of him.
No, but
touching hands, reaching out.
He didn't know at the time.
I presume not.
I think it's a fair assumption, Jeff. Fair assumption. That'd be a bad joke.
No, he did. He did. This was part of...
He did?
So as part of the Jazz's COVID-19 response, shoot-around availability was done in the media room rather than on the court. As Rudy Gobert got finished discussing the situation, he stood up, leaned over and made it a point to touch every mic and recorder in front of him.
That sounds like a mission COVID-19.
Is that not the conversation before he got diagnosed, though? I think it is.
So he's taking the piss beforehand.
Yeah, I think that's...
which obviously would have been far less hilarious had it been afterwards. The NBA have reacted to this correctly, at least, and they've cancelled everything, stuck a pin in everything that's happening in their league at the moment, because...
I was going to say, so that's 2-week quarantine. I mean, they play a huge amount of games, don't they? That's like he misses half the season in those 2 weeks, isn't it? The amount of games they play is ridiculous.
Well, it's a very long season as well, is the thing. He might miss 4 or 5 games in 2 weeks, but well, now that he has it, like, he's going to be sick for a while. So
it's an interesting case study for everything that's going to be closer to home, because obviously they're entering into a vital part of their season, 6 weeks away from the playoffs or whatever it is. What are we away from the Euros? What are we away from the culmination of the season? What are we away from the start of the GA Championship?
Yeah. Well, Basketball Ireland cancelled all their stuff last night around about 10 o'clock. A lot of people would have missed that. We'll have Bernard O'Byrne, Chief Executive of Basketball Ireland, on a little bit later on, because everybody was watching Liverpool last night. Kenny, who are now out of the Champions League.
That wasn't a good enough reason to cancel it just because the Liverpool game was on. Is it a 2-week period? Is it a fixed period of time, though? Because obviously everybody's in. It's the 2-week incubation period, isn't it?
If you have, everybody who has been in contact with him will now isolate. Although I think different territories have different.
I should say the Gobert thing. The reason why I got that mixed up is that it's been recirculated. The clip of him touching all the mics,
right.
Naturally, because he's now got it. People are like, well, that's kind of ironic. So panic is over. I obviously fell for that this morning, and people are resharing it.
It's all right. You know, fake news.
Things happen when panic sets into the mind, Kenny. That's what happened this morning. But no, he didn't. The reporters who were in Utah last night, their pop shields are safe for now.
So Juventus last night obviously confirmed that one of their players had it, and that's a bit of a nightmare. It is Rugani. That's a bit of a nightmare because obviously they've got to play Lyon in the Champions League, and now we expect this morning that there's going to be a request for a postponement from that, because obviously if one of your team has it, what do you do?
Exactly. Even if you take Rugani out of the equation, doesn't matter, because he's been contacted with the Juventus players. Obviously, they're going to travel and play against the Lyon team, so it's all of that kind of thing. I sense that in England there's a bit of a, not resistance as such, but it's kind of they're doing as much as they can to before they arrive at that situation where they're actually cancelling games of football. I mean, the Arsenal game I could understand because there was the direct link there. The Olympiacos manager, the owner, obviously they played Arsenal. He'd come in contact with a number of the Arsenal players. Obviously Arsenal were going up to Manchester City, so you can see there's a natural connection there in terms of, oh yeah, I can understand why that's been called off. But in terms of just as a general rule, let's call off all the fixtures for this fixed period of time. You sense there's a bit of resistance in England to actually do that in relation to the Premiership between now and the end of the season. I thought that was quite different in terms of the Olympiacos owner, because he was infected, he had direct contact with such and such, and there was an obvious link there. You could kind of say, well, yeah, I can understand that. But generally speaking, the kind of argument that, well, there's going to be a lot of people in one small area, let's call that off. I just sense a bit of resistance. Or whether it's the medical advice that they're getting, well, look, let's not need to panic too much.
Well, I don't know, it's hard to know, because things have escalated very quickly. The London Times, we'll get to this in the papers in a couple of minutes' time, they're reporting that because the status has changed away from whatever it was before containment, and now it's at containment, what's going to happen is as early as this weekend, potentially, all games behind closed doors. If you had a ticket for the match, they're going to give you a stream so you can watch it. They're not going to stream the 3 o'clock games, but they are going to try and ban people from going to pubs to watch matches. That's as early as this weekend.
What about the pubs? Full stop.
I think the pubs are already suffering, aren't they?
But sorry, in Denmark, for example, they've closed the pubs and everywhere. There's some suggestion that you might try and quarantine or put a what do you call it when everybody has to go to bed at a certain time? Everybody has to be in curfew. That they're going to curfew pubs in Ireland. I don't. You either shut them. Because everybody,
4 in the morning. 4 in the morning curfew.
Coronavirus only comes out to play at 1 a.m.
It's so.
The one like the Denmark course of action is seemingly and increasingly looking like the correct course of action, because nobody is surprised by Daniela Rugani testing positive. Nobody's surprised by Rudy Gobert testing positive. The discourse seems to be it is only a matter of time before a inter-county GAA player, a Premier League footballer tests positive for coronavirus. Nobody will be surprised when this thing happens. If we know this thing is going to happen, why aren't we taking preventative measures rather than reactive measures, which is what is going to happen in the case, or which is what we've seen, say, with the Arsenal situation. It was a reaction to...
But what are the preventive measures you're talking about? You're talking about Denmark.
Shut everything down for a couple of weeks.
So what do you mean by shutting everything down? What does that mean?
Schools.
Right. What about people circulating, going to the shops, shopping centres?
Well, so you advise everybody not to do that. You say if you
so pretty much restrict yourself to your home environment for 2 weeks.
Yeah, obviously you're going to have to go and buy provisions. We'll try and keep our shops open. But and everybody just goes, okay, fair enough. If that's what it takes to save, so. The worst case scenario is that 80,000 people in Ireland could die. If everybody goes,
I can understand that. I can get if that's what it is. I'm never quite sure what people mean. If that's it in terms of a 2 week fixed period,
or 3 weeks, it could be. At this point now, we're so close to the Easter holidays. Schools are going to be shut anyway. It's much easier to confine people at that stage. Now, it's obviously not easy if people have kids and you have to go to work. But if the country decides, where possible, you're working from home, and we appreciate that this is a national emergency, and we're all asking you to,
Well, I think you're right.
Be your best self.
Yeah, but that window that you were talking about, even say from the football point of view, say the Premier League, we're going into an international weekend coming up at the end of March, so there's a natural window there, 2 weeks. Well, there'll be no Premiership games for that fixed 2 weeks period. So if you're talking about, that'd be the ideal time in terms of cancelling. You wouldn't actually have to cancel any Premiership fixtures, just those playoff games would be the only issue.
Yeah.
But it looks as if they're falling by the wayside anyway as we speak, so...
Yeah, it's hard to know. Do you get those games out of the way in the hope that you can have the Euros, or do you just now start putting a pin in the Euros and say, look, we're making a contingency plan and we're actually putting the plan in place so everybody can calm down?
My temptation would be to play the games even behind closed doors. I know there's an argument there saying, I think it was Pep came out publicly and a couple of other people saying, well, if there's not going to be fans there, we shouldn't play the games. So I don't buy that. I don't buy that argument, to be honest with you, for the reasons that you're saying. Because I think if we can get them played, albeit behind closed doors, at least that keeps the option open of actually getting the Euros played. If not, it becomes more of a...
I would tend to agree. The other thing, and it's a minor point, and I'm not sure everybody agrees with this, but we all need something to do as opposed to just watching the news all day, right? If you're just sitting there watching the news and the death toll ticking up globally, that's not great for everybody's psychology. If at least there's a football match on.
Netflix, Joe.
I mean,
Netflix.
I get the Netflix point.
I'm on Titans at the moment. I can recommend it. It's decent.
Any good?
Oh, yeah, very good.
Out of 10?
I'd give it an 8.
Ooh.
Well, initially I thought Kids it's a kiddies version almost, isn't it? Kind of Titans light. Kind of young superheroes, isn't it?
I don't know what this is.
But it's actually no, seriously.
No.
Oh, yeah. No, get on it. It's a younger version almost of like Avengers, but targeting at the younger kids. It's a young Robin in there and some teenage kids. Kind of superpowers. So you're thinking Scooby-Doo.
You need to have children
but it's actually quite...
Give yourself an excuse, do you?
Need what?
You need to have children to give yourself an excuse to watch it.
Oh, I'm watching with the young fella, all right,
okay.
Both of us, yeah.
All right, okay. You're getting more out of it.
This is what I'm talking about.
How age appropriate? What age?
Oh, don't. Miss could be listening to this, I don't.
No, go on.
Technically,
she's not.
Technically, he probably shouldn't be watching it, but...
All right, okay.
He's like his old man, he's quite mature for his age.
Right. The sports news from overnight. The NBA have announced the cancellation of all and the cessation of all activities immediately after one of their players, Utah Jazz...
the player?
Yeah.
Rudy Gobert.
Tested positive for coronavirus. That's a developing story over the last while. and it's up on offtheball.com. We'll bring you more details on that as soon as we get it. The other details overnight from COVID-19 are that Juventus defender Daniele Rugani tested positive. He obviously is with Juve, and they're activating all the isolation procedures required by law, so it'll be interesting to see what happens their game with Lyon in the Champions League, and whether or not the Champions League is now going to go ahead in the way that everybody thought it was. Liverpool are out of the Champions League, the second leg of their last 16 tie with Atletico Madrid, before a packed Anfield last night. Massive crowd all congregating at Liverpool. Went to extra time after finishing up 1-1 on aggregates. They had the perfect start to the added time with Bobby Firmino scored his first home goal of the season early on, but Marcus Llorente found the back of the net twice for the visitors, as did former Chelsea striker Alvaro Morata to dump Jurgen Klopp's side out 4-2 on aggregate. PSG beat Dortmund 2-0 in Paris, so they go through 3-2. Tonight, Manchester United are away to Austrian side LASK in the first leg of their last 16 Europa League tie. Lots of cases in Austria, close to the Slovakia border as well. This game kicks off at 5-6 as we play behind closed doors due to coronavirus fears. Wolves' away game to Greek side Olympiacos will also be in an empty stadium when it kicks off at 8 o'clock. The Olympiacos players all tested negative yesterday after the news came through that their owner had, of course, been infected. Tom Hanks infected overnight as well.
Really?
Yeah, in Australia.
I need to do deep dive in all this.
Donald Trump cancelled all travel between America and the Schengen parts of Europe, so Ireland and England are okay. Still playing golf, I think, Kenny. Still playing golf. Vera Pauw expressed her concern with the match facilities after her side's win over Montenegro yesterday. 3-0 win in Budva saw the visitors move top of Euro 2021. That's us. Although tough games against Germany await. And in racing, day 3 of Cheltenham gets underway this afternoon. 7 races down for decision. Still a full house at Cheltenham expected as well, including 2 Grade 1 competitions. The Paddy Power Stayers Hurdle is the feature race of the day. It goes to post at 3:30. And Paisley Park obviously is the one there. And then Willie Mullins is represented by Penhill and Bacardi. Gordon Elliott will be hoping his star mare, Apple's Jade, can be ridden to victory by Richard Johnson. The first goes to post at Prestbury Park at 1:30. In golf, world number 1 Rory McIlroy begins his defence of the Players' Championship title this evening. He's playing alongside John Rahm and Brooks Koepka, not a rival. GMAC and Shane Lowry are the other Irish interest. And as we said earlier, Basketball Ireland made the decision to suspend all basketball-related activity in Ireland until further notice, a directive which will be implemented with immediate effect. The NBA also postponed their season after a player from the Utah Jazz. I've already told you that. So here's what's coming up. Sports pages now. John Duggan's Cheltenham top 5 stories, including a chat with Bernard O'Byrne, Chief Executive of Basketball Ireland. After that, in the second hour of the show, going to bring you the Paddy Power Cheltenham show from 9. We're obviously talking football with Kenny. If you're a Liverpool fan and you want to know what the hell happened last night, then you should drop us a text. 087 9180 180 is the WhatsApp number, or of course you can also drop us a tweet as well. Let's go through the papers because that might get us up to speed.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Okay, so it's off to ball.com first, yeah. NBA season suspended over coronavirus positive test. That's the news that broke overnight. It could be catastrophic. Niall Quinn on how coronavirus could affect football. Eddie Jones is the Donald Trump of rugby. That was Tom English speaking last night. Juve confirmed Daniele Rugani has coronavirus, and Tom Brady and the best teams for NFL free agents. Free agency is going to be interesting. Whether or not it's all going to go ahead at exactly the same time. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting indeed. The other story there as well, Niall Quinn talking about the coronavirus and how disastrous it could be for football and things like that. And I guess that's the one thing that we're kind of pondering as well over the next couple of days as to where does the Slovakia match fall in a window, and does that window even matter? You'd imagine we're at the point now where the window does not matter. That whether or not it creeps inside the sort of Slovakian battening down the hatches phase or not doesn't matter, because it's obviously at worldwide level now. Before the show this morning, we spoke with Basketball Ireland CEO Bernard O'Byrne. Here he is about their decision to cancel all activity for their association. Have a look.
Well, I don't have the knowledge that they have, all the information that they have. It does, Cheltenham going ahead seemed to me to be astonishing. And I'm saying that my sister is over there, and I told her that it was unbelievable that she was going. So I'm wondering what will happen when all those people come back from Cheltenham. But I mean, that's a decision that somebody else made. I'm not sure that people have grasped just what I said a couple of minutes ago, that we're in new territory here, that I think you talk about hard decisions will have to be made right across the board, but you need to start taking them. I think, you need to really give it some thought and, if you like, be thinking outside the box here. To beat this and to do this, you need to do maybe unprecedented things. And I don't really think that people will come back at you and will argue with you for, let's say, if you call it going over the top, because it's about health, it's about lives, so it's better to be over the top than to be behind the waves trying to catch up.
Well, let me just tease that out with you, because anytime any of us have taken to social media in recent weeks, and I'm not going to lie here, I'm a bit of a late convert to this, so there has been I'll leave it to the experts. You don't know anything about epidemiology, you don't know anything about virology.
Yeah.
Leave it to the experts. You guys have decided not to wait for experts to ring you and say, oh, by the way, do you have any matches on? How many matches? Oh, how many people? You're just taking the decision yourselves. So
yeah.
why didn't you just leave it to the experts in this instance?
Well, I think because, we heard the concern of the experts. We didn't hear the specific instruction, cancel all your games, but we heard the concern. We looked at prime time, we looked at the Late Late Show, we looked online, and there is a concern. It's hard to get a huge amount of positives from what the experts are saying. So while we didn't talk to them directly, I think we have been monitoring everything that they're saying, and the tone of what they're saying remains, I won't say depressing, but you couldn't say it's optimistic, so we listened to that, and, we didn't need a phone call from somebody to tell us what we thought we should be doing,
Which I think is really interesting, that there is leadership being shown by Basketball Ireland. It's obviously at a different stage of their seasons, but it's still a massive thing for any sports organisation to say, right, we're going to just let everybody else, let the health authorities...
Yeah, but it's in isolation, what they're doing. I understand, and fair play to them, showing a bit of leadership. I understand that, as being very kind of proactive, but what was they doing? What was the FAI and the guys say kind of totally differently, and maybe are sitting on their hands? I don't mean that to criticise them, but more of a wait and see kind of policy. I mean, how effective is that really going to be? Well,
I'll tell you what, I think what that does is it puts pressure on everybody else. The Department of Sport must be waking up this morning going, why are they doing this? We don't worry, we have all this. And then the Department of Sport must be walking into the Department of Health going, look, the basketball crowd have cancelled everything. Maybe everybody else needs to cancel everything. Like,
it's got to be done in unison. There's no point in a week and a half later than the FAI coming out or the GAN saying, so right, we're going to replicate.
I think you're right, but
what Basketball Ireland have done.
But if they're not, if no one's doing it, right?
Yeah.
So, like, again, here is a conversation where none of us are experts in how the stats have rolled off. But if you look at the statisticians who are communicating about this, in every country it's followed a very specific pattern, apart from a couple of countries where they've had very draconian measures. And those draconian measures seem to have worked. We have been a little bit of this, and we've been a little bit pregnant the whole way along. We'll keep the parades, Okay, the parades are gone, but everything else is still on.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we're going to keep our GAA matches this weekend, we're going to keep our League of Ireland matches. There's literally no point in keeping them. There is no point in getting crowds to gather at this stage when the consequences for our health system are absolutely off the charts bad if we don't get this right. So there's a little window of opportunity here for us to close the schools and just stop everything for a couple of weeks, and let's see exactly what should...
But government have to drive. It's as simple as that. Government have to drive on the advice. I don't know if the chief medical officer is over here, but government has to drive it. Like, it can't be individual sporting organisations, making decisions kind of ad hoc over the next couple of weeks.
And so imagine how... So I actually think you're dead right. I think you're 100% correct. And I think that when you were talking about the FAI and the GAA, they're in a difficult situation because they're being told, don't break ranks. We're the power here. We're in charge of this. But actually, it's their members who are out and about at training, and it's their members who are out and about. Your opinion changes in this quite regularly. I was definitely of the view that they should play games behind closed doors. Now I'm kind of thinking, if you're playing in those teams, do you really want to be when everything else is shut down? Do you want to be the one who's going to training and
or even jumping on a plane?
And being in a dressing room with other lads is as
tackling people
as bad for you. You'd imagine as like standing in an unpacked stand, for example, or terrace, which would be the case in a lot of Alliance League games or League of Ireland games. You'd imagine. So I don't personally see the difference in that. Like when you talk about the schools, for example, it's pretty easy to just push these holidays forward. You would have thought, but again, we're not experts. We can't like just kind of.
But I think, do you know what? That whole we're not experts. Like, let's do exactly what we're told to do. Irish society did exactly what it was told to do for about 70 or 80 years, and it led to awful problems that we're still trying to work out. Right? Enough. We can look around the world and see things and go, actually, I think what those guys are doing is pretty interesting, and that's a fair enough. Like, the whole point of a global communication system is that we can literally see what's happening in China, what's happening in Singapore, what's happening in Denmark, and compare and contrast with what we're doing. And like, our government at the moment are actually in talks about the next government, as opposed to really spending every single waking second governing the country. We don't really have an elected government at the moment. We have the old government who are kind of hanging on, who are like,
but
some of whom are around the world.
But it's their responsibility to put those things aside.
Yeah, exactly.
And get on top of this.
And wouldn't you think, like, who is going to criticise everybody for cancelling games this weekend at this point? Who's going to say, no, I demand my right to go to an Allianz Football League game?
I genuinely believe people are actually waiting.
Scared.
And no, like just waiting to be told, don't go. Like there is.
Is there a Kerry game this weekend?
There is, but like maybe it actually speaks to what you've spoken about for the last 70 years. Maybe we are a nation of people who are like, well, nobody's told us not to do this, so we're going to do it. But at the same time, if somebody tells us not to do this thing, we will definitely not do it. Like, we will follow the lead as long as there is a bit of leadership and somebody is telling us,
I
don't
think
go to
people
this.
genuinely see the seriousness of the situation here. Obviously, people we've all been guilty of like laughing and joking a little bit about it. I think you have to retain a certain sense of humour and perspective.
Agreed,
Don't get me wrong, but I think genuinely, if tomorrow morning Taoiseach over here was to make a statement to the effect, look, from such and such a date, we were speaking about that kind of international window. Say, for example, a week from now, to say there's a 2-week period here, all sporting events will be cancelled, all public gatherings, etc., etc., etc. For these 2 weeks, these are the specific dates. I think people could get their head around that. I think people would actually genuinely accept that. I don't think they'd
be happy about it.
After this, what? I think people are at a stage now. I think they realise, people have read enough and listened enough, and they realise the seriousness of the situation. And I think you can get your head around something like that. A 2-week period, isolate yourself to a certain extent, self-quarantine. Yeah, we can manage that.
Netflix.
Yeah, exactly. I think people would accept that. You know what I mean? I don't think there would be like, people would be on the streets protesting at that. I think it's this. Well, let's see how we go. One sporting body taking the action, others not. Conflicting advice coming out. I think that lends itself to people kind of, let's just crack on as we are.
Like Cheltenham, for example. Let's go stateside, because the NBA overnight have announced that all games have been cancelled. I'm delighted to say we've got Kavitha Davidson with us. Kavitha, good morning to you. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm still at the office. It's about 1 a.m. LA time. So this is a story that matters. So
yeah. So initially over the last week or so, there's been rumblings about the NBA putting games behind closed doors, and everybody just thought, well, okay, that's probably what's likely to happen now. Despite the fact even LeBron was like, oh look, I don't want to play in front of no fans, but now it's been a complete cessation of all NBA activities for an indefined period. We don't know how long this is going to go on.
Yeah, this is really unprecedented. And honestly, everyone that we've talked to, we're doing our episode tomorrow morning about this, basically said that, the conversation really quickly shifted from should we play behind closed doors? Should we not allow fans? Should we postpone the season just out of safety? To now, let's just suspend the season indefinitely. And having that patient zero in Rudy Gobert at the Utah Jazz is what just completely changes conversation as rapidly as it did.
Maybe just explain that for people who are only coming to this story right now. So the game was about to go ahead, is that correct?
Yeah, so this was a really bizarre scene. So the Utah Jazz were set to play the Oklahoma City Thunder in Oklahoma City, and the players had already taken the court. The starting 5 for each team was already on the court, and then you have referees running over and the medical director for the Thunder running over, and this very fast-moving story. And then suddenly you see players are sent to the locker room, and then the PA announcer comes over in the stadium and tells fans basically to go home. He says, on the advisement of the NBA, and he makes it a point to say we are all safe, which was interesting. But very quickly we learned that Rudy Gobert, who plays for the Jazz, had not been in the arena because he had been listed as questionable earlier in the day with an illness, and he had eventually tested positive for coronavirus.
Okay, and at that point, that game goes. How quickly afterwards is the decision made to cease all NBA activities?
Almost immediately, honestly. So I work at The Athletic, and The Athletic Shams Charania broke the story of Rudy Gobert testing positive. 5 to 6 minutes later is when the NBA made their announcement that it was suspending its season.
Okay, and I mean, again, we're all in uncharted territory here, but that seems like swift, decisive action. Are they getting criticised? Has there been a backlash against that decision, or are people going, look, right call, let's ride this out and see what happens?
I think that what you've seen in recent days, not just with the NBA, but, the NCAA had decided today to close its door for the tournament to fans. You've had various other teams, either by the direction of their local government, close their door to fans. You've seen a lot of backlash in general from fans who think that this is an overreaction and who think that we're being alarmist or what have you. But I think at this point, if one player, and it can't be overstated, just the spider web, the network, the exponential potential for exposure for something like this, and because it's so uncharted, we just don't know. We don't know if this is an overreaction or not, and it's kind of a better safe than sorry scenario. But if you look at something like the Jazz, so this has trickle-down implications almost immediately. So the teams that the Jazz played in the last 10 days have been asked to self-quarantine for 2 weeks, and that's about 6 or 7 teams. And it's not only those teams, right? So the Jazz have played 3 teams, the Knicks, the Pistons, and the Celtics, at their arenas, and they share those arenas with their hockey teams. So, let's say the Jazz played the Knicks at Madison Square Garden, and the next day, the Rangers played a game. The team that the Rangers played would have been used the same locker room that the Jazz used the day before playing the Knicks. So now the question is, what does the NHL do? Because now this is spreading more quickly than anybody could have anticipated.
It's the security staff in the venues who are more likely going to transmit it than the actual changing room itself. So all of a sudden, it's like, whoever was welcoming Spike Lee to that elevator, who knows? Who knows where this story goes at this point? But it certainly, it did seem from afar like the response had been quite slow at government level. In particular, the Trump administration had been quite slow to kind of say this was a big deal. In the last 24 hours, that seems to have changed quite significantly. They've banned travel from the Schengen area of Europe, so that's mainland Europe. Ireland and Ireland and England are actually okay. They're still going to be able to travel. Cargo is still going to be able to go. But something like the NBA stopping activities is a giant wake-up call for everybody.
It's absolutely a giant wake-up call. And like you said, the administration on the federal level has been very slow moving when it comes to this. But on the local level, you saw Santa Clara County in California ban mass gatherings of more than 1,000 people. That led directly to San Francisco doing the same. And that led directly to the Golden State Warriors saying that they would play without fans way before the NBA suspended its season. So that's just an example. You've seen this on a local level. The state of Ohio banned mass gatherings as well. So like NHL games and NBA games that were set to play there would not have been allowed to play. But something like the NBA, this is definitely a galvanizing moment for the country and really for the entire sporting world. We kind of had to figure out what's worth keeping these games on.
Yeah, and so the NCAA, that's March Madness, that is scheduled to go ahead behind closed doors. Is that tournament in New York?
So that tournament happens around the country. The Final Four this year was set to happen in Atlanta, for example. There are still regional tournaments going on, the ACC and the Big 12, for example. The Ivy League had suspended its entire tournament, and a couple of other regional tournaments had done the same. As of now, the NCAA tournament as a whole is still set to go on in front of closed doors, as you said, with no fans. But this decision by the NBA is going to have effects on what the NHL does, what the NCAA does, and absolutely, we haven't even started talking about baseball, but baseball season is starting in less than 2 weeks, and that decision is going to need to be made as well. Okay,
whenever a suspension like this happens, everybody goes, oh, it'll come back in a couple of weeks, but this is an indefinite suspension by the NBA. Is there any scheduled time? Is there even a suggestion about when they might begin to think about coming back on stream?
There's really no clarity. This is very uncharted territory. And you can talk to players. If you talk to players today, they said, we're waiting by the phone. We don't know if we should show up to practice tomorrow. What would we even be practicing for? Nobody really knows when the plan to start the season again would happen. And then this has trickle-down effects, not just on the regular season and then on the playoffs. And then if this ends up getting delayed, let's say a month or two, who knows what's going to happen with the Olympics? But then what are the effects of this going to be on Team USA's basketball basketball team. For example, if the NBA playoffs get pushed to a time that interferes with the Olympics, it's really impossible to tell at this point.
Okay, Kavitha, thanks a million for making the time for us this evening. I know you're really busy, but great to have you with us again. Thanks.
Thank you.
It's Kavitha Davison of The Athletic there, giving us an immediate reaction from the States about what's going on overnight. Nobody knows nothing. That's the truth. They don't have any clue when they're going to start being able to play again.
But it's also it's encouraging that they've accepted that. It's okay to not know, but it's also okay to be extremely cautious because you don't know and take the required steps because you assume that in the land of unknowing there is a possibility of a worst case scenario, and you're better off sitting in the situation and regretting to yourself in the summer, God, we could have got all these games played because it wasn't as bad as it was first feared, rather than regretting it, saying, well, that got out of hand, and why the hell were we playing professional basketball in the middle of all of this, making things worse?
Exactly. I mean, it has really got out of hand in Italy, for example. Like the situations in the emergency rooms there is absolutely horrific.
That's what I mean in the United States specifically, but it is going to.
Well, I mean, completely.
It's almost beyond uncertainty at that point.
Yeah. So, okay, 8:01 this morning here, this Thursday morning. You're watching OTB AM, the Sports Breakfast Show from Off the Ball. Going to be turning back to Liverpool crashing out of Europe very soon with Kenny up next, though. It's John Duggan talking Cheltenham. We'll be back in a minute.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Every morning this week from 9 a.m, John Duggan will be live from the biggest festival on the racing calendar, Cheltenham. He'll be bringing you his top tips of the day, as well as exclusive interviews with all the top jockeys, trainers and pundits. Ger Gilroy, Tom Malone, Johnny Ward and Paddy Power himself will all share their racing insights and tips across the festival week. That's the Cheltenham Show, every morning at 9 a.m, with thanks to Paddy Power, Cheltenham's coming home. OTB Sports Radio, live 24/7 on the Go Loud app.
Off the Ball.
This is after a Glasgow University research which showed that former footballers were 3.5 times more likely to die from brain disease than people of a similar age who hadn't played football. That's a tough worry to have for you, isn't it? That's probably not one that you like to dwell on too often.
No, I'm acutely aware of it, to be perfectly honest, in terms of how vulnerable I potentially will be to it, which is a pretty dark thought as such.
Off the Ball. Weeknights from 7 and weekends from 1.
This is OTB Sports Radio, live 24/7 on the Go Loud app.
American Football 101 on Off the Ball.
With the Aer Lingus College Football Classic.
Considered college football's most prized individual award, the Heisman Trophy was created in 1935 by the Downtown Athletic Club, and since then it has been awarded each year to the best player in college football. The trophy was named in honour of the club's athletic director John Heisman, who died back in 1937. Some notable players who've won the award include Roger Staubach, Barry Sanders, Cam Newton and most recently LSU quarterback Joe Burrow.
American Football 101 on Off the Ball.
With the Aer Lingus College Football Classic.
OTB AM.
Right, you're very welcome back. 8:03 this Thursday morning here on OTB AM. We'll get to John Duggan and Cheltenham in a moment. We do need to talk about football. I think Liverpool are always going to regret what happened this season because they were so clearly the best team in Europe for such a long period of it. But after the winter break, they just couldn't get back to the form that they had.
Yeah, but that's always the case, the Champions League football, in terms of you need to peak at the tail end of the season. There's been many examples of teams kind of stumble through the group stages, just make it in by the skin of their teeth, and then you find a bit of form, momentum, and hit their peak.
Every Real Madrid win of the last decade.
Yeah, although that said, I don't think that applies to the Liverpool performance last night, Gerard. I would say that. I thought it was a really good Liverpool performance. I thought that Klopp picked the right team. It was the team I would have picked on the pitch. I thought the balance of the team was good in terms of players who could go and chase the game and score goals and keep a certain level of defensive solidity, which was important against Atletico. And I thought Liverpool actually struck the balance really well in terms of the performance of the team. I really couldn't overly criticise it. Just those small moments in the games during the course of the game proved crucial.
It was one of these times where you just kind of have to hold your hands up and say luck played a big part in what happened last night. You would love to really dig down into what Liverpool could have done differently over the course of the 90 minutes. But it's not a whole pile they could have done.
Obviously, sorry I interrupted you there, but the longer you play like professional sports, Owen, the more you realise luck plays very little, if no part, in the eventual outcome
What?
of games.
Really?
Of course it's a fact. Liverpool didn't lose that game last night because they were unlucky. Liverpool lost that game last night because Adrian couldn't lift the ball through the air over the head of João Felix, who was 25 yards in front of him. That's why they lost that game last night. They lost the game because Jordan Henderson, in the lead up to the second goal, having done brilliantly well to get back, just couldn't quite extend that left leg and get a block on the shot. And Adrian couldn't quite shuffle his feet quickly enough to go and make the save. They're the reasons why Liverpool lost that. It's nothing to do with luck.
Well, Alisson being injured is unlucky, isn't it?
He's injured.
I know,
what's the luck got to do with it? He's injured.
I would have said that luck
is... the goalkeeper between the posts last night. Luck had nothing to do with that game last night.
Sorry, let's...
The outcome of that game.
Maybe luck is the wrong word.
No.
This is it is the wrong word. That's my whole point.
It's very
let's go back to this.
very similar to the word luck.
No, hang on.
Find the word and throw it back at me.
Well, this
is not luck.
This is amazing to me, because
amazing isn't the word either.
No, just to take it away from last night and the micro examples which you're saying are not the definition of luck. I would have said that the more sport I watch, most of these teams are so close to each other that there's the randomness of the luck, which impacts whether or not one team wins a big game or another.
There's specific reasons you can see with your eyes in terms of why a result goes one way or the other. You can see it. You could see it there last night. Those kind of games you were talking about was so close. One was so little bit. Well, there's reasons. There's reasons why one team get over the line and another team doesn't. And there, visually, you can actually see the reason. You can break it down. What could the defender have done better? What about the positional sense? Could he have been covered keeper? Could he have moved his feet a little bit better? All of those things. There's legitimate reasons why teams can see goals and score goals. And it was the same last night.
God, I don't know.
Well, it was a fact. If Adrian had kicked that ball 40 yards with the pitch that back from Trent Alexander, the likelihood is, we never know, Liverpool maybe would have gone and won that game. He wouldn't have scored that goal. That's a fact. Lorente would not have scored that goal if Adrian had made a better connection with that back pass and kicked it into the Atletico half the pitch.
But I'm not referring to that really in terms of being unlucky. I think that was obviously a massive cock-up. I think Liverpool were unlucky that the game went to extra time.
Why?
Because they
only scored one goal.
They did. They
were one goal down from the first leg, so why were they unlucky?
Because I think they were not only deserving of a hatful of goals during normal time. Why
did they deserve it? They didn't score.
They had
more than one goal.
In the last 15 minutes alone, they had 5 clear-cut chances.
Name them.
Mane's bicycle kick, Robertson off
clear cut. But you got to take him. Oh, you got to be clinical. I don't think they had five clear-cut chances, to be honest. I think they had a couple of decent chances over the course of the game. I'm thinking like the Mane shot edge of the box, but it doesn't matter to me. Clear-cut or great open goal. You got to take him. You got to be clinical.
Okay,
you can't say we created 8 chances, the opposition created 2. We didn't take any of ours. The opposition did. We deserve to win that game.
So let me put it to you this way.
You've got to be clinical. It's part of the game. Be clinical when those chances arrive. If you don't deserve to win a game of football because you create more chances than
Let me put it to you this way then. If you're Jurgen Klopp and the Liverpool team preparing for that game last night, what do you do differently?
Nothing. Well, that's what I'm saying. I couldn't be critical of Liverpool, but I'm not saying Liverpool are lucky. Unlucky to lose that game. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is I liked the performance. The setup was right. I thought the game plan was executed almost to perfection, but from the Liverpool players. I never thought they were going to create a barrel load of clear-cut chances. I probably would have said if they can create maybe 3 or 4 clear-cut chances, a couple of half chances during the course of the whole game, they've done really well. Just be clinical when those chances arrive. Firmino took that Wijnaldum brilliant header for the first goal. The 2 goals were amazing, fantastic goals. They really were that Liverpool scored. Could he had a couple of more? I don't remember too many more. The Mane chance edge of the box first. Have Robertson header on the real pressure from Trippier getting in his face, making it difficult for him. Salah jinking into the box on his left foot. Second half was a good chance. Yeah, another day he may have taken it, but he didn't. The fact is he wasn't clinical enough. He didn't put it in the back of the net. And Atletico hung around in the game. They don't cover the ball, Atletico. That's how they play. They don't look to dominate possession. They look to sit in, absorb pressure at times, and if they can counter-attack efficiently. And it's what they didn't do in the first leg, and it's why it was a little bit worried last night for Liverpool. I thought Atletico would go through because I thought they'd score. And I thought they would because in the first leg, I didn't think they counter-attacked very effectively. They're a lot better team than what they showed in the first leg in possession of the ball. They didn't really carry an attacking threat in the first leg, but they're a little bit better last night. And the second goal, that was Atletico at their very best. Defending as a compact unit on the edge of their box, Llorente coming back, doubling up with Verschalco, stripping the ball off Mane, I think it was on the edge of the box, and then decisive break. Llorente plays the ball into Morata, makes a 60-yard run high up the pitch, and before Liverpool can get back into, you could say, good defensive shape, although they had bodies back, the ball's in the back of the net. That's kind of ruthless counter-attacking football. That's a brilliant goal.
When Clint Eastwood is standing over Gene Hackman in Unforgiven with the gun pointed at his face, ready to blow his head off,
that last month.
He goes, "Dessert's got nothing to do with it." Blows his head off. You don't get what you deserve in life. You get your head blown off by Clint Eastwood.
First time I saw that, I was like, clearly they're giving him a line of dialogue because somebody's going to come in and stop him. Yeah, and that's
amazing.
That would have been perhaps more kind of in line with what happened to Liverpool last night.
Liverpool got their heads blown off.
But I
saved them.
Well, no, in the kind of parallel universe that I had in my head, they are the Clint Eastwood and
when they were lucky.
To save them.
And that's why your films would be rubbish. That's why Clint Eastwood wins Oscars. Okay, it's 11 minutes past 8. Time for us, a bit late, to head to Cheltenham.
The Cheltenham Show.
on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Paddy Power. Cheltenham's coming home.
John, you're very welcome. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. At one stage yesterday, with about 10 minutes to go before one of the races, I was like, oh, the crowd looks a bit down. And then the crowd came from placing bets and buying drinks and surged forward. And it was just as big a crowd, it looked like on TV yesterday, as it was the day before.
Yeah, Jared, Kenny and Owen, good morning. A little bit down from 59,209 to 56,943. That's the brief on the crowd yesterday. I still feel I'm a little bit in the twilight zone, guys, to be honest. I don't know if this should be happening or not, but it is. And it's happening until tomorrow. They're going to, I expect, in the UK today, change the status of their coronavirus response from containment to delay, which will have an impact on sporting gatherings. But I do think that Cheltenham will be completed with crowds today and tomorrow. Yesterday, on the race side of it, it was a great day for JB McManus. He had 1,019 to 1 four-timer, including Champ, who was 399 to 1 in running, and chinned my horse Manila Indo up the running. And then the JB McManus horse that disappointed was Defi Desoy, with Politologue winning the champion chase. 3 winners for the Irish, 1 winner for France. Tiger Roll ran a good race in preparation for the Grand National, finishing second in the cross-country chase. So, and then Willie Mullins, the last winner in the bumper. Gordon Eddy with 2 winners.
Willie Mullins got you out of jail in the last one. It was a big price in the end.
11 to 1, yeah. So we're back in the bike with the Nap being second and Willie winning the last. So we did tell you yesterday on the show that when you it's all about sometimes gathering information, and that's what we did around Ferdy Hollow with Leopardstown, and luckily it worked out.
Yeah, you got a 100% record in your last race, John. That's all I remember.
Well, I really did feel, lads and Ger, that I was never going to tip another winner again. You go into this utter depth of despair, and you feel like you really should just never ever be seen again. And then you have hoopering and hollering, and I was screaming at the television because I suppose there is a pressure to having 500 quid a day on things. There does come with an added pressure on that, and people are hanging on your word a bit, and you do feel it. And I do feel I'm back in the game now, and I'm ready to go. I was actually up until 1 a.m. this morning doing the card with so much enthusiasm that I don't even want to sleep. I just want to get cracking today and have a go at it. Right,
a reminder, our Cheltenham coverage is brought to you all week by Paddy Power. Cheltenham's coming home. What is your nap of the day today, John?
Each way bet on Col Reevy in the Mares Hurdle. That is at 4.50 for Willie Mullins. Paul Townend rides. This horse beat Abracadabras in a bumper last year at Punchestown. We saw how well Abracadabras ran on Tuesday, and we saw how well that Envo Allen ran yesterday. Col Reevy, I think, is rock solid to be in the first 4, which is what Paddy Power are offering each way. I think is an each way bet to nothing, Col Reevy, and that's my each way nap of the day today in the 4.50.
Col Reevy around about 6 to 1 at the moment. Is that
yes?
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Okay, up against Manello Melody, Concertista, Floresa, Dolcita. That's a decent enough looking race.
It is, but it does. It's between them. There's a lot of horses that I don't think are going to perform, and the Irish horses and Willie Mullins generally tend to perform well in this, although he did have a 50 to 1 winner in it last year. But I do think Col Reevy is rock solid.
Okay, anything else that any other kind of big trends from yesterday? Like the ground was a bit bottomless. That was the information that came out very early from Gordon Elliott. He said he was worried about the ground for Tiger Roll. He was 100% correct to be worried about the ground. We should have listened to him.
Yeah, I just think JB McManus horses that are fancied are always like Easy's Land was second favourite, Dame de Compagnie was a favourite. Aramix was well supported. You just got to follow the market. I think looking at yesterday, I do think there was nothing really that was strange about the day when I'm looking through the winners here yesterday. There was no big outsiders, but generally Thursday is a tricky day. You've got over 20 runners in the last 3 races. It's a tricky day, and you've got that big per temps final, that handicap hurdle. For example, in the last race, the Kim Muir Chase, I picked out 3. In the plate race, the 410, I picked out 3 as well. I could put up, obviously I'm only putting up 1. It's a tricky one, and I think that my kind of feeling of the first 2 days, if the handicaps, you should just play for very small money each way, and then if you have a cut at a big race, that's fair enough. Then you have a cut at a big race, like the Ryanair Chase or the Stairs Hurdle. That's probably the strategy I would advise. Have an opinion on one of the big races, the graded races I would call them, the level weights races, with the handicaps then just playing for small stakes.
Okay, we obviously had Brian McMahon on recently about Shane
Yes.
Today was supposed to be the day, but I can't see it. Is it not running or?
Shame Lake. No, I didn't see him. I didn't see him in the fields when I did the cards last night. So he's a non-runner.
Yeah, that is a pity, because obviously we were looking forward to seeing how they would get on. Right, John, we'll let you go. And
okay.
There's no sense. So what Trump did last night was he announced that on Friday at midnight they will ban travel for people who don't have documentation between the European continent and the US. After chairing Cobra yesterday, if Boris Johnson decides something similar will happen, is that likely to be a Friday midnight? So Saturday's Premier League games will be closed doors, Friday's Cheltenham will go ahead as planned?
I would say so. I think there would have to be a certain cut-off point for this to happen. And I can't see it being in the middle of Cheltenham. I would say there'd be a cut-off point for any new initiative by the British government to respond to the coronavirus. That means at lunchtime today, and we'll find out a bit later on. I can't see a situation where it comes behind closed doors tomorrow. I think this will be concluded.
Okay. All right, John, thanks. We'll be back to you a little bit later on.
Cheers,
the full Cheltenham Paddy Power show is coming your way at 9 o'clock. Owen, in your absence, we had Jake O'Donnell do he kept your tradition alive. Owen.
Where was Owen?
Owen does the hard. He was sick. You might want to sit a bit closer to me, Kenny. Not fully quarantined, no.
I quarantined myself, Kenny, just to be 1,000,000% sure. Nothing wrong with me. Although I did,
Wasn't one of those famous hangovers, self-quarantine hangovers, yeah.
Hey, Kenny might be on something here, Owen. You didn't tell us this.
Didn't feel too similar, actually.
Good weekend, bit groggy Monday.
Yeah.
Off Tuesday.
Get through Monday. Just come in, put lick the palms of your hands, as Ferris Bueller says. I'm
never going to let Owen forget that interview that he did. I was in here, and Jerry, you must have been with me, and he was in America. Where was he? In Times Square.
Tennessee.
Tennessee, 2 in the morning, and he was a little bit jolly. He was very jolly, wasn't he? It was one of my highlights.
I was absolutely plastered, Kenny. Thanks for putting it nicely.
Extremely jolly he was. It was a great interview.
I think that's probably a legacy of that from last year.
Our character.
So,
clearly.
will we go through the Cheltenham tips?
Yeah, go for it.
So, gone through the papers this morning. Jake obviously did a better job than me probably on this yesterday morning, but I'm back on it. We'll start with the Marsh Novices Chase, the half one. We've got a tie in terms of the most tipped horses this morning. I haven't put John Duggan or Tom Malone's tips into this just yet. So this is just from the newspaper so far this morning. And it seems to be a tie at the moment between Faugheen at odds of 4-1 and Itchy Feet at odds of 9-2. Sam Crow is joint favourite also at odds of 4-1. But really, nobody except for Davy Russell and the Irish Daily Star is tipping Sam Crow. All the tips are going for Faugheen and Itchy Feet at the moment. Outside of that, if you wanted a bigger price in the Marsh Novices Hurdle, there's a bit of love for Mr. Fisher at odds of 11-2. You've got Tom Pepper of the Irish Sun, Brian Flanagan of the Irish Daily Star, and Peter O'Hare of the Mirror, all tipping that one. But Poem at odds of 16-1. There's a lot of Racing Post love for that today. Paul Keeley and Tom Segal both tipping that one. And then the outsider, Tornado Flyer, 22-1, tipped by Tommy Lyons. That's the horse with the biggest odds that gets a tip in the newspapers today. So that's the Grade 1 Marsh Novices Chase at 1:30. The 2 then, the Pertemps Network Final Handicap Hurdle, and it seems that the most tipped horse here, and it's a bit of a ragtag bunch here because there's a lot of well-tipped horses, but the one that gets the most tips with 8 of them is the Storyteller, the favourite, at odds of 5-1. You've got the likes of Jonathan Burke of the Irish Daily Mail saying the Storyteller is his next best of the day after his nap somewhere else in his card. Tony Keenan of the Irish Times is even suggesting going for the Storyteller as part of an each-way bet. so suggesting that perhaps there isn't full confidence. You've also got Welsh Saint at odds of 6-1, getting a lot of love, and Relegate at odds of 11-2. Brian O'Connor of the Irish Times says Relegate is his nap of the day. Tony O'Hare of the Racing Post says Relegate is his nap of the day. Chris Cook of the Guardian, Ian Goran and Katie Walsh also tipping Relegate. They're both writing in the Herald this morning. Elsewhere then, if you're looking for a big price in that one, Guitar Pete at odds of 66-1 is being tipped by Paul Keeley of the Racing Post, obviously an each way suggestion there. Smaller odds then there for the likes of A Great View and Rapper, but as I say, there's a lot of different horses here. As John mentioned when he talks about Thursday being a difficult one to predict, I think the 2 Pretemps is indicative of that really, but the Storyteller, the one which has got the most tips so far. The 10-3, the Ryanair Chase.
Are we going through every race here? Okay, go on.
But like only for the
top lines, yeah, come on.
A Plutard, 20 tips for that, which is the favourite. The 3:30 Paisley Park, 22 tips for that, which is the favourite.
Yeah, well, Paisley Park is everybody's banker of the week, they say, but 13-8 on.
The 4, Simply the Bets, 10-3, most bets for that, 9 of them. The 10-5, Nella Melody, 11-4, 13 tips for that. And 4:30, Le Broil, 5-1, 8 tips for that.
All right, so all of that is in more detail available on offtheball.com.
Offtheball.com.
Yeah, and sorry, I wasn't interrupting you there. You just
That's exactly what you did.
Oh, well, I mean, we were going to be here all day.
Oh, sorry, I was told in my ear as well to
all right,
wrap
okay.
up.
Yeah, okay. Now, offtheball.com for that. That's your tip of tipsters. It's the wisdom of the crowd. It's all the pollsters. It's like he's Frank Luntz. Isn't that who you are? He's your
precisely. That's why I modelled myself on.
Yeah, Frank Luntz is a very 2008 reference. But anyway,
what a time to be alive.
Look him up there, kids. Well, now it turns out is the best time to be alive. May you live in interesting times is that Chinese curse, right? We're living in one of the most interesting times of all. And there's not going to be a lot of sport to talk about, which means that we should be talking about some of the stuff that we can talk about while we can't talk about it. And that's Liverpool in the Champions League. So time for us to turn our attention back to Anfield. Let's hear it.
And it's in, Saul tucks it away.
They've celebrated as if they've won the tie after the game. Well, like you said, they're coming back to Anfield, so we know our fans will be there.
Welcome to Anfield.
What's he done here, Joao Felix? It's Llorente. Oh, he's buried it. He might fancy it again. Llorente. Oh! And the damage might get even greater. Morata puts the cherry on top for Atletico. Not alone do they win the top.
I saw really, I'm completely happy with the performance. Wow, that's what can I say? It's so difficult to play a side like that. I don't understand with the quality they have, to be honest, that they play this kind of football. I don't understand that. But it's right. The winner is always right. And when I see players like Koke, Saul, Llorente, the players they have, they could play proper football, and they stand deep in the side and in their own half and have counter-attacks. But okay, they beat us, so that's how it is. And we have to accept that. We accept that, of course. It's no problem. So congratulations to Atletico. But it doesn't feel right tonight, to be honest. I realize I'm a really, really bad loser. And especially when the boys put such an effort in a game and play just look against world-class players on the other side, defend with 2 rows of 4 and 2 strikers in front of them. They didn't even have counterattacks in over the 90 minutes, so that was just brilliant. But in the end, we have to accept that we lost it anyway. We conceded 3 goals, which is really crazy. We will go again, how I said, but I saw really, I'm completely happy.
Yeah, so completely happy with his performance of the team, just not the result. Virgin Media Sport have over 400 UEFA Champions League, Europa League and Nations League games available live this season. All of these games are available to all Virgin Media TV customers who can also download the TV Anywhere app and stream the action whenever and wherever they like. Here's what the Virgin Media Sport panel made of Atletico last night.
Willie Mullins, Fernie Hollow, that was some performance.
Thank you, yes. Paul was very cool on him. I thought he might have been too far back, passing the winning post first time round. I said it to Kieran O'Toole beside me. I said, I hope I'll eat my words, but I think he might be a bit too far back. And of course, then just after straightening for home, Kieran said, I think you're going to eat your words. And at that stage, I was looking at Patrick in front thinking he'd won. So anyhow, it was nice to have a 1-2. He looks a real good type, but he's very difficult to ride. Paul was brilliant on him. He settled him and just delivered his challenge at the right time.
This game is ups and downs, isn't it? Like, you have a few downs yesterday and ups today, and that's what it's all about. It levels out.
We had a lot of downs. We have a lot of ground to make up. It's nice to get on the board anyhow, and 2 more days to go. So fingers crossed they can stay going.
All right.
Thanks very much.
Well, that's obviously Willie Mullins talking about Fernie Hollow yesterday with John Duggan. We'll talk about that a little bit later on the Paddy Power Cheltenham show. And we'll tell you what the Virgin Media Sport panel made of Atletico last night in a few minutes. What did you make of Atletico last night? First, I want to say I like Jurgen Klopp. I like the fact that he's a bad loser. He's at least a bad loser in a way that isn't a complete asshole the way, for example, Mourinho is, or the way Ferguson was. He at least does it with some, like...
He accepts he's a bad loser.
Yeah,
Mourinho
he knows it.
Doesn't.
There's a self-awareness about it.
Yeah, but I think the difference between a bad loser, showing your frustration, I'm not happy, I'm angry, and then point the finger at the opposition and going, I wouldn't play like that. I thought he was a little bit disrespectful there to Simeone. How can you set up a team to play in that fashion? The players they have, I wouldn't do that. Oh, that was very disrespectful to Simeone. Atletico have had a huge amount of success during Simeone's tenure. They're playing that brand or style or type of football, whatever Klopp is alluding to there. They've won European trophies. They've won a La Liga title playing that way.
Reached Champions League finals, yeah.
Champions League finals. So
styles make fights. He should accept this.
Yeah, one is another man's poison. I really enjoyed the Atletico performance last night. I've got to be honest with you, I have a huge amount of respect how he sets the team up. Klopp may not have enjoyed it, but there's a certain logic to how I think that was a conscious decision. Atletico just don't play every game. I've watched a huge amount of Atletico play over the years under Simeone, a huge amount, because I enjoy the way he sets his team up, particularly that kind of reasonably rigid 4-4-2 formation. Something I really like. He's been very consistent with that, and that's been talked down a lot over the years in terms of it's a Neanderthal approach 4-4-2. Who can play that in the modern game? But he's kind of stuck with it, and there's sound footballing reasons why he sticks with it. But they don't just sit in. The whistle doesn't go. They just don't retreat to the edge of their penalty box, defend, even look to counter-attack. They can get on the front foot. They can press high up the pitch as well. They can play some good football. Got some good technical players. But against this Liverpool team, the obvious thing to do with the strengths of that Liverpool team, Salah, Mane in particular, off the flanks, running into space. Do not give Liverpool space to run into behind, because they'll absolutely kill you. Long balls from Henderson in particular and from the 2 centre-halves in behind opposition defenders. How many times have we seen Mane open his legs up, Salah in behind, and just kill teams by hitting the spaces in behind? So you don't give them the space. You drop as close to the edge of the box as you can, and you give them the ball in front of you. Stay nice and compact. So there's really got to be some clever combination play to get through you, or you've got to find a cross of top delivery into the box and somebody who's prepared to out-jump those 2 big centre-halves to get the head of the ball.
Where the first goal came from.
Yeah, which eventually Liverpool did. And it was brilliant, because what they did was Oxlade-Chamberlain, who was excellent in terms of attacking that space in the inside right channel in between full-back and centre-half. He done great. He got to the end line, and that's the hardest cross to defend. When Alexander-Arnold puts those crosses into the box, let's say from about 30 yards out from a wide area, it's great delivery. But I still expect 9 out of 10 those 2 Atletico centre-halves going to deal with it. They're coming onto the ball, they can see it. All the opposition players are in front of them, and by and large they'll deal with that. As soon as you get the ball inside the 18-yard box, running towards the end line, it's the hardest cross to defend, because as a centre-half, then you've got to turn sideways, you've got to head back towards your 6-yard box. You're looking at the ball, and now you're searching for opposition players. Where are they? And any type of cross delivered with quality, which is exactly what Oxlade-Chamberlain did for that first goal, very difficult to defend, particularly when it's cut back towards the penalty spot, which is difficult then for centre-halves to plant their feet and go quickly to go and deal with it. So it was a brilliant first goal from Liverpool. Second goal was absolutely fantastic as well. Wijnaldum did great down the right-hand side, early cross and brilliant header and the goal. So 2 fantastic goals from Liverpool. But for me, Atletico set up exactly the way they should have, the way they're comfortable. It wasn't one-off. Yes, they're comfortable playing in that fashion, but for me it was the way they had to play against Liverpool last night and counter-attack more effectively than what they did in the first game. And like I said, that's exactly what they did. Had to wait extra time to get the second goal, but it was absolutely brilliant, clinically executed counter-attacking goal, and good luck to them.
When they get the Firmino goal, you would expect a team of Liverpool's quality and experience to be able to see it out, or to have a few minutes at least to kind of, okay, let's calm the whole thing. Let's put them under a real sense of pressure. Instead, it was like almost instantaneously.
I don't think so. I don't think, but the first Atletico goal came very quickly after that second Liverpool goal. So I don't think in that intervening period, Jay, you could have said, "Oh, they're getting very nervous at Liverpool,"
No, but
or they're taking a massive step back here. They're inviting pressure. It was an individual mistake, and it's like I'm talking about kind of small detail. You're talking about, oh, look, it was a bad kick. So for me, I never
mentioned the Adrian thing was unlucky. My entire thing is based on normal time.
So let's break down that first goal. I watched it last night, and when that back pass from Trent Alexander went back to Adrian, I think, well, no danger there. But immediately I looked at Correa, his reaction when that ball was played back. And there was no way he was going to get that back pass. About 30 yards between him and Adrian. He'd run himself into the ground all night, and I thought to myself, I would have been forgiven if he'd have just thought, well, let that one go. No way I'm going to get that ball. Why am I even chasing that down? But he didn't. His initial reaction was to get his head down and sprint for 10 yards. And I tell you the net result of that was, instead of Adrian having time to have a touch, settle himself, and then launch the ball up the pitch with his second touch into the Atletico half, because Correa, by virtue of the fact that he was prepared to that lung bust in 10 yards, sprint as fast as he could, he got in Adrian's peripheral vision and put a little bit of doubt in his mind. Can I take 2 touches here? If I take 2, is he going to... And it was almost this very slight panic. No, I'm going to have to hit this first time. All because Correa was prepared to run as hard as he could over 10 yards. That's what forced him to hit that ball first time. He made the bad connection, and the ball arrived at João Felix's feet. Then João Felix, for me, I was really interested whether Simone would start him. Could easily have left him out and gone for Vitola or Correa up front, 2 better defenders out possessed the football. He could have put his best 10 defenders on the pitch last night, even the 2 centre-forwards, but he didn't. He found space for this young, for probably the most creative player. And in that one moment when he received the ball to his feet, for me, that's why he was on the pitch. Because he could have, I know players, that ball would have come to him, would have looked to shoot first time, keeper's off his line, rushed his shot, wouldn't have scored. Maybe would have had a touch, got their head down and run 10 yards and got to the edge of the box as quickly as possible and might be able to get a shot off, but he didn't. He immediately assessed the situation with the ball at his feet. Saw Llorente was in a better position to go and get a shot on target, and made the right decision. Correct, accurate pass, just crisp pass into his feet, and Llorente done the rest. On that one moment for me, João Felix, that was the reason why he was on the pitch. And that run from Correa epitomised everything about Atletico for me. That 10 yards, there's no logical reason why he'd even make that run. The distance was too big. What are you making that? But that's why he did it, because his natural reaction, what Simeone demands of his players, run hard, get in their faces, create doubt, create a bit of nervousness, niggle away, keep at him, stay in their coattails, don't give up, be a nuisance. And all of those things kind of manifested itself for me in the head of Correa in that split second. No, I'm not gonna get that ball, but you know what? I'm gonna sprint as hard as I can for 10 yards. I might just cause a bit of doubt. I might just force an out, and just maybe that 1% chance he might make the wrong decision because I'm prepared to make this 10-yard run. And that's what I'm talking about. Small detail matters, and it did last night.
João Felix is the real deal?
Yeah, I like him. Hadn't got a huge influence on the game last night, but of course didn't have a huge amount of possession of the football. Didn't have a huge influence of the game. But I like the kid, young player, exceptionally talented, and like I said, came up with a massive key moment last night.
I was going to say, you'd have to give Atletico Madrid a really good chance of going very deep in the tournament now. They might win this thing if it happens.
I don't think so. They would be one of my... I don't think they're playing as well. I've seen previous Simeone's team play a lot better. Not having a good season, Jared. They're up and down. They're outside the Champions League places at the moment. Actually really struggling for form. And like I said, in possession, I don't think they're playing particularly well. They don't dominate. When I say in possession, I'm talking about the moments when they get the ball.
Are they not the exact team who are just coming into a bit of form now? They've just knocked Liverpool out. This is the type of thing that springboards them into. They don't care about La Liga, which who knows again, that's not going to happen. So
they'll have to play better in possession. Okay. They'll have to play better. They defend very well. Liverpool could have had another goal, maybe not easily another goal last night. They didn't have a half of clear-cut chances, but they could have easily had another goal. They could have won that game last night.
They just had a bit of luck.
So, look, you'd have to say Manchester City are now strong favourites to win the Champions League.
No, I wouldn't say so. No, I'd say Manchester City. I'd put Bayern Munich probably level with them. Maybe them two just slightly above the rest.
I'd love to see this City team against this Atletico team, and Atletico do their play acting and see what happens.
That would be even more funny than what happened last night.
Right, Virgin Media Sport have over 400 UEFA, Champions League, Europa League and Nations League games available live this season. All these games are available to all Virgin Media TV customers. You can also download the TV Anywhere app and stream the action whenever and wherever they like. Here's Niall Quinn talking about the impact the coronavirus will have on Irish football. Have a look.
Well, the association met with the NLEC, who represent the clubs, and the PFAI, who represent the players, earlier on today, really to assess the impact that coronavirus will have on the clubs and the players should games be postponed or forced behind closed doors. It'd be quite catastrophic financially. So a steering group was drawn up today to study that financial impact and to work out proposals that we can put in place to try and help the clubs and the players, and we will hopefully forward those proposals on to government and UEFA to seek their support too. So we're trying to get in early and understand the damage that can be done here and try and do something about it. That's nationally. And I think, obviously, internationally, our girls...
How likely, before you move on to that, how likely is it, do you think, that games will be affected? Are you waiting on government advice?
Yeah, absolutely. Government and the HSE will tell us that, and we will act accordingly. We're not going to obstruct that. We must follow orders. And I guess then that goes on to our international status. Our girls, who did very well today, had a great victory in Montenegro. We hope they get home safe and sound. But we are as we were with Slovakia at this moment in time. It may change, but right now our travelling party, that goes out there will be very, very small. It'll be the team and only those who directly affect the team. So I can't see any board members travelling. I can't see any media being allowed travel, and certainly no fans. They may go out there, their business, but certainly not be allowed to go into the stadium. So again, we'll take orders when given them, whether UEFA come up with something different at that time, or indeed our own government might be wary of us travelling at that particular time. It's a couple of weeks off yet, as you know. So it's a very difficult time, but it's one that we're putting contingency plans in, and we hope that that we'll be ready and have some form of defence, to particularly for our League of Ireland clubs, because I think they're most at risk, because if to go a couple of months without income and revenue coming in, and still they have their commitments to players, etc., then it gets very, very tricky.
So you want to anticipate that and have some sort of financial cushion in place if it happens?
Correct.
Yeah, all right, so that's the Virgin Media Sport panel last night, in particular, Niall Quinn talking about exactly what the plans are for the FAI. Tom Malone is here to update us on what's going on. Tom, how are you?
Yeah, good, not too bad. Voice suffering still from Cheltenham, but it's okay. I've got Cheltenham fever, not coronavirus.
What happened?
It was probably
a very successful first 2 days.
Yeah, basically, I blame honeysuckle mostly, because
is that a horse?
Yeah. Not eating honeysuckle. No, honeysuckle won the first day, and that kind of set me very much on the path from there. So it's been quite a good couple of days. A bit tougher yesterday, but yeah.
Did this happen at the office? Like, did people?
No, thank goodness it wasn't in the office. Although I'm very concerned at 1:30 today if Faugheen wins, because I will not want to be around anyone. It's like. I feel like,
is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It'll feel like one of my kids has done something well or something like that. I feel like this horse has been a big part of my life, and
but there's no chance of winning today, is there?
What?
There's a few tips coming in for Faugheen.
He's 3 out of 3 over fences.
Maybe with a bit of luck, Jer. Bit of luck, he might win it.
He's the highest rated horse in the race.
Is he not too old?
He's a multiple Group 1 winner.
I thought Faugheen was like...
He's 12, yeah, but sure, what's he running against?
Not past it? Is that
what's he running against?
I don't know, Tom. I don't know any of this stuff.
Sam Crow. Not at all.
Take that, get back in your box, yeah.
Look, he is 12, and it's never been done before, but it's very rarely been attempted before, because so few horses in his position would even be risking that play. I mean, you talk about horses that have won champion hurdles and gone on to win Grade 1s over fences. I think you're going back to previous champion hurdle. You're going back to like Dawn Run in 1984 as one of the last champion hurdle winners to actually win a Grade 1 over fences.
Right.
So it's not just, it's rare because it's rarely even attempted.
Okay.
Just a couple of things. This is remarkable. The voice. Like for horse racing, because obviously we've all experienced it coming down the home stretch. But even if I'm at a GAA match shouting for 35 minutes, I wouldn't have that sort of voice. That's remarkable. And second of all, can you make the pub public to see, can anybody witness it today?
Cows.
It was cows, yeah. We move on to Liverpool. The Champions League defence ended at the last 16 stage. Overnight, the holders slipped to a 3-2 defeat to Atletico Madrid after extra time at Anfield, losing 4-2 on aggregate. Liverpool defender Virgil van Dijk says they came so close, and just listen out and if you can hear the little bit of shade he throws at one of his teammates here.
The 90 minutes we played, 95 minutes we played, we were outstanding, I think. We put them under pressure, we wanted. I think everything happened that we wanted, created good chances. The only thing was they had quite a good goalkeeper in their team, so that's also part of football.
Whoa! Wow.
Not subtle.
The only thing
Virgil.
Hang on. If anybody missed it, the only thing was they had a good goalkeeper in their team, which is a part of football. Which is a part of football. We didn't have that part of football. Whoa! Come on, Virgil van Dijk.
That's like right up there with the lads just pitching Loris Karius after the full-time whistle against Real Madrid. But he was left on his own, and the Real Madrid players had to go over and comfort him.
Really? Is that really intended? I mean, that's almost unforgivable.
Well, if it's unintended, it's one of the worst collateral damage.
Yeah.
I can't.
He knows what he's doing. He's a smart guy.
He was digging out his goalkeeper. I mean, that's outrageous.
It does seem like that, doesn't it? I mean, it wasn't
subtle. That's inexcusable. I mean, Adrian's feeling badly enough, and I pointed out he's made a couple of errors last night. It's cost his team. That's a horrible position he's in this morning. To hear you're
best player in the world.
Come out and shove you under a bus like that. I mean, that's awful. If that's the case, I'm still not sure. I don't think he's thinking about what he said there.
Gone is his Ballon d'Or this year. Gone is his Player of the Year this year. Maybe win Player of the Year. I don't know. Like, all of a sudden, all those individual awards that drive him.
I'd love to get a consensus.
Listen, we'll play the clip again here. Judge is going to play the clip again.
Yeah,
so 90 minutes we played, 95 minutes we played, we were outstanding, I think. We put them under pressure, we wanted. I think everything happened that we wanted, created good chances. The only thing was they had quite a good goalkeeper in their team, so that's also part of football.
No, I've got to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, Kenny!
I just
throw him under the bus, Kenny!
No, I just can't believe it.
Just because you can't believe it doesn't mean it's not true.
No, just my experience. I just can't believe you'd talk about your teammate like that in that fashion. Like, I can't. It's inexcusable.
His English is very good.
Yeah, it's not.
His English is excellent.
I know his English is excellent, but All Black did have a decent game last night. He's an outstanding goalkeeper. He might be just, extenuating the fact that we were brilliant. It was just their goalkeeper. That was the difference. Like, it was no fault of ours, as opposed to maybe pointing the finger.
That's also a part of football.
Yeah,
what does that
that's
mean?
also a part of football. Having a good goalkeeper. That's the.
Come on.
Yeah. Well, I can't say anymore. I just think if that's the case, it's absolutely inexcusable. If I was the manager, I'd be having him in the office this morning, reading the right act, saying, "Go and apologise to your teammate, or have a conversation with him at least and explain wasn't your intention, or if it was, I totally regret it." You have to. I mean, that lingers. That kind of thing lingers in it. And it's not just about the guy. I know I'm going on here, but that's not just about the goal. If I was a teammate in that dressing, I'd be really feeling for Adrian. You know what I mean? That affects other people in the dressing room as well, that kind of statement, if that's what his intention was.
Yeah, well, let's move on quickly. Paris Saint-Germain also progressed last night to the quarterfinals with a 3-2 aggregate win over Borussia Dortmund. While two of the three British clubs in action this evening will play their games behind closed doors due to the coronavirus. Manchester United's game with Lask in Austria at 5-6 will be without supporters, as will Wolves' match against Olympiacos in Greece at 8, while Rangers' home fixture at home to Bayer Leverkusen will go ahead as normal at Ibrox. Republic of Ireland manager Vera Pauw expressed her concern with the match facilities after her side's win over Montenegro yesterday. A 3-0 win in Budva saw the visitors move top of the Euro 2021 Group I table, but tough games against Germany awaits, and Pauw said the Germans will have an advantage on their trip to Montenegro.
Montenegro will play Germany in their national stadium, which is a huge pitch, and we were on a pitch of which I wonder if it was even the sizes, the FIFA sizes. We had, for example, one toilet for 25 women, and everybody needs to go to the toilet after warm-up and before the game, inclusive the staff. It showed that the circumstances were not easy, and if you take that into account and you score 3 of those beautiful goals, then you have to be happy.
Still top of the group there, the Ireland women's there. The US women's national team meanwhile staged a visual protest in advance of their win over Japan last night. They wore the pre-match training tops inside out to hide the US soccer crest while keeping their 4 stars visible. The US Soccer Federation said male players have more responsibility and a higher level of skill than their female counterparts as part of the equal pay debate on football in the US. But elsewhere, Basketball Ireland CEO Bernard O'Byrne says the organisation wanted to act rather than wait to be told what to do on OTB earlier. Last night the organisation suspended all basketball games over fears over the coronavirus, and here's what O'Byrne told OTB about listening to experts on COVID-19 spread.
And the tone of what they're saying remains, I won't say depressing, but you couldn't say it's optimistic, so we listened to that, and we didn't need a phone call from somebody to tell us what we thought we should be doing,
Bernard Byrne speaking to OTB AM there earlier. While the NBA has suspended its season in the US until further notice due to the coronavirus, last night's game between the Utah Jazz and the Oklahoma City Thunder was postponed after Rudy Gobert tested positive for the coronavirus. Of course, the playoffs due to start next week. Finally, Rory McIlroy set to begin the defence of his Player Championship title this evening in Florida. The world number one will tee it up alongside John Rahm and Brooks Koepka. And finally, Paisley Park is the big favourite today at Cheltenham in the Stayers Hurdle, the feature race on day 3.
Don't worry, we're going to give you all the Tom's tips after 9 o'clock on our Paddy Power Cheltenham show as we run through the card. Today we'll go back to the course. We'll hear from Paddy Power, we'll hear from John Duggan, we'll hear from Johnny Ward as well. But we're going to hear now from Bernard O'Byrne. You heard the clip there from him. The full piece is going to be up on offtheball.com. But here's the full interview that we did with the Basketball Ireland CEO who spoke to us on OTB AM earlier this morning about their decision to unilaterally stop all basketball activity with immediate effect. Okay, so in terms of potential lost revenue or sponsorship or any of that kind of stuff, what are the financial ramifications for an organisation like Basketball Ireland?
Well, I suppose most of the financial implications will be at the marquee end of the sport, I suppose. You know, all our Super League teams are, you could describe them as semi-professional. They will have people under contract to play, so there may be effects there. So, but we didn't want a situation where we were making health and safety decisions on the basis of potential loss of finance. These things will all come out in the wash. And hopefully, if there is a significant financial implication, you know, we might be able to approach government or whoever might be operative in this area and say, look, this is damage that has been done to our sport. Can you help us? And I'm sure that'll apply across the board to everybody else. But again, I think we had to put health and safety and well-being on front of finance. But there will be implications.
Are you surprised that it's still official government policy that mass gatherings are grand, that like we could have matches this weekend in various sports where large crowds will congregate, and that this is, as it stands now, we're recording this at 10 minutes past 7 on Thursday morning, that as it stands now, the instruction from government is, no, go on ahead, it'll be grand.
Well, I don't have the knowledge that they have, all the information that they have. It does, you know, Cheltenham going ahead seemed to me to be astonishing, and I'm saying that my sister is over there, and I told her that it was unbelievable that she was going. So I'm wondering what will happen when all those people come back from Cheltenham. But I mean, that's a decision that somebody else made. I'm not sure that people have grasped just what I said a couple of minutes ago, that we're in new territory here. That you know, I think you talk about hard decisions will have to be made right across the board. But you need to start taking them, I think. You know, you need to really give it some thought and, if you like, be thinking outside the box here. You know, to beat this and to do this, you need to do maybe unprecedented things. And I don't really think that people will come back at you and will argue with you for, let's say, if you call it going over the top, because it's about health, it's about lives, you know, so it's better to be over the top than to be behind the waves trying to catch up.
Well, let me just tease that out with you, because anytime any of us have taken to social media in recent weeks, and I'm not going to lie here, I'm a bit of a late convert to this, so there has been leave it to the experts. You don't know anything about epidemiology, you don't know anything about virology, leave it to the experts. You guys have decided not to wait for experts to ring you and say, oh, by the way, do you have any matches on? How many matches? Oh, how many people? You're just taking the decision yourselves. So why didn't you just leave it to the experts in this instance?
Well, I think because, you know, we heard the concern of the experts. We didn't hear the specific instruction, cancel all your games, but we heard the concern. We looked at prime time, we looked at the Late Late Show, we looked online, and there is a concern. It's hard to get a huge amount of positives from what the experts are saying. So while we didn't talk to them directly, I think we have been monitoring everything that they're saying, and the tone of what they're saying remains, I won't say depressing, but you couldn't say it's optimistic, you know. So we listened to that, and, you know, we didn't need a phone call from somebody to tell us what we thought we should be doing, you know. Yeah, it seems to me like your decision is consistent with some of the decisions that have been made by government, like cancelling the parades, for example. Yeah. Let's cancel let's cancel our matches. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with the GAA and with the FAI this weekend. Maybe those games go ahead behind closed doors. Maybe everything gets cancelled. It's very early yet.
to
yeah.
To know
And they're tough decisions, and the bigger the organisations, as you say, with probably bigger financial implications and whatever, they're really tough decisions. So I personally, I wouldn't be pointing the finger at any of the other organisations or saying, aren't we great in basketball? We were just looking at ourselves, and we just decided this is right for us.
And if you'd wanted help at a HSE or a Department of Health level, would there have been recourse to it?
Well, I hope so. We didn't inquire into that, but I do go along with the general thing that trust the professionals, listen to what they're saying. They are there to guide us and to help us. So hopefully there would be resources there.
All right, Bernard O'Byrne, Chief Executive of Basketball Ireland. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Jared.
Byrne talking to us before we came on air this morning at 7:15. Basketball Ireland taking the unilateral decision to stop all of their activities, and it seems like they're one of the few organisations at the moment showing leadership. With Niall Quinn last night on the FAI saying that they have to wait for what the government are doing, and I completely understand why they're doing that, because there's so much money involved in shutting down football, like there would be so much money involved in shutting down the GAA this weekend. But actually we've reached the point now where unless we act, our health system is going to be completely overwhelmed within a couple of weeks, given the amount of cases that are more than likely already in the country that haven't been diagnosed. So we've got an opportunity here, shut everything down, stop sending the kids to school, send everybody home for a couple of weeks, take the right call. Basketball Ireland are showing leadership by doing that. You can see that full interview up on offtheball.com. The NBA overnight cancelled all their stuff, and so there will be no NBA for the foreseeable future in America. Think of all the money that they've lost, think of all the turnover that they've lost, think of all the broadcasting. We're talking about billions of dollars, and here in Ireland we're like, let's let the GAA matches and the League of Ireland matches go ahead this weekend. It's absolutely ludicrous that we're considering allowing those games to go ahead, and the sooner we all wake up to that prospect, I think the better. Now, Oliver Dingley, good morning to you.
Good morning.
You are supposed to be going to Japan to try and qualify for the Olympics.
Yes, my only chance as well of qualifying for the Olympics, which is next month in April in Japan, which is a test event as well for the actual Olympic Games. And like I said, we get one chance, and it's in Japan, so it's kind of testing times, I guess. There's some things that are bigger than sport, which this is definitely one of them, is people's health. But also, having said that, we've got very good healthcare, and we've been given a lot of good advice, not just for ourselves, but also Team Ireland as well. Preparations against the virus contracting, anything you can do really to help yourself. And we have a prospect of going to Japan in less than a month's time.
Yeah, so it's FINA who are the governing body for swimming and diving, right?
Yeah.
And they, at the moment, are insisting that this is likely to go ahead in Japan next month.
They've done a statement saying that Olympic qualifiers will still be happening. They're pondering cancelling all FINA events, but as it stands, it's still going ahead. It's one of those situations which seems to be rapidly changing, but unfortunately at the moment it's changing for the worst, I think, all around the world. So we'll see how it goes. And the competition starts on the 21st of April, and that itself is getting close to the Olympic Games for qualifying. So I'd say that they're in a bit of a tricky spot as well, with people's livelihoods qualifying for the Olympic Games.
So what are the competing emotions that you're going through at the moment?
It's a weird one, really. It's just trying to focus on a day-to-day basis. Like anything, really, that's kind of what I do with my diving anyway, is just get through one day at a time. And for me, it's just kind of keeping myself healthy, whether it's little niggles or doing anything I can get to get that extra 1%. But yes, it's a weird situation, one which I've never actually been in before. I remember going back to Rio where they had the Zika virus, and there was a lot of talk around it. Whereas this is on a whole different level. And with Rio, you were always confident that you would be going to the Olympic Games, and that there were a few athletes who dropped out. But as far as I was concerned, I was always ready to go whenever. So this is a much different scenario where myself, I have housemates, family members. My nan's in a nursing home, for example. So it's a really difficult situation, I think, for not just for me to be in, but the organisers who have obviously ploughed so much time and effort and money, and I can only imagine what they're going through.
Ollie, what about, let me ask you, your training schedule? Because clearly you're training to peak at an optimum time. Obviously, when it comes around in April, is that going to be affected in terms of not knowing now, in terms it could be delayed for an extra month, 6 weeks? You have to tailor your training program as a result, or physically are you where you need to be? It's not really. It's just really between a mental thing now in terms of.
I think that's it. I think it's the mental stability really in a sport like diving where it's so technical. You can be as talented as you want and as strong as you want, but it all comes down to that mental element.
So physically, you are where you need to be. Whether it happens next month or like the month after that, it's not so much an issue.
Either way, I'll have to stand up a diving board at the end of the day and perform either way. So I'll be there on a diving board, and hopefully 6 dives, and I'll have qualified for the Olympic Games.
What could they do? Is there a possibility that everybody could dive in their home pool at the same time? Like, how would they?
One gigantic Skype competition.
Like a Google Hangout. I mean,
I'm not entirely sure actually what's going to happen. I can't really think of. It's a big event, so to put an event like that on a short notice. But this isn't a problem that's affecting Southeast Asia. This is a problem where you've got over 1,000 people in America. You've got over 1,000 people in Germany, for example. Big nations that we know of. And I actually looked at a graph the other day where it seemed that Germany and France and Spain were kind of 10 days behind where Italy were, but on the same projectile level on the line of kind of shooting up in similar cases. So I think it's obviously a worldwide pandemic. So I don't really see any other nation. The only capable nations really of putting on in the diving world events on that last moment tend to be Russia and China. And I can't see many people wanting to go to China. I know Russia have kept their numbers down low, but
not a single case.
No, but like India have suspended all the visas, I think, until the 20th, maybe. Oh, sorry, the 15th. So it's and Russia, they obviously have stringent measures with their visas as well, especially in a time like now. So it's I'm not too sure, and it's for the people of FINA to decide what they're going to do. They could count back results from last year, for example, last year's World Championships.
Did you qualify?
As it stands, yes.
Okay.
If they counted back the top 18, for example.
So you'd be behind that measure, clearly.
I wouldn't say no. But having said that, though, it's got to be a fair process for everyone involved, because when you go to the World Cup, there's about 70 odd divers who compete, and only 18 get a spot
at the Olympics.
Yeah.
So one of the things that they're talking about as a potential for the Euros was that everything would be suspended, but there would be a pre-Euros tournament where the qualifiers would happen. So Ireland would play Slovakia, and then the winners would play the Northern Ireland Bosnia winners the week before the tournament actually started. So you wouldn't know until the last minute. Is that a possibility? That it looks. I think the most likely outcome here is that the Olympics are going to be suspended either by a couple of months or potentially a couple of years, right? If there was a suspension, could they do a qualifier, so a slightly expanded 24 divers, so 18 plus the top 8 in the world who didn't make it through that?
Yes, it's a hard one because, I mean, each country has their own qualifying standard to get into the World Cup in the first place. And in a sport like diving, where I guess financially it's a bit harder to kind of plan things at last minute because you don't have the money in order to send a group of divers off to Japan with only a week to go, for example, on FINA's say-so. So it's a hard position to be in. But as of yet, like I said, they're still going ahead with the event, and I'm sure if they do go ahead with it, then there'll be every single measure in place.
And if they do go ahead with it, will you just go because that's your job?
It's my only chance to qualify for the Olympic Games, and it's the only chance I get to represent Ireland at the Olympics every 4 years, and I'll put myself in every position where I can go, in safe position as well.
Yeah, so assuming that there is no travel ban, but even if there is a travel ban, there's probably a likelihood that you'd be able to get a visa because you're technically going for work. So it's asking quite a lot of the athletes to put them in a situation where they have to do this to do their job.
Yeah, and it is our job at the end of the day to go compete. And going into the institute every day, we'll be screened. Institute of Sport in Abbottstown, we'll be screened. I know if you're going to, I think maybe Japan, for certain countries, you have to go through a 2-week screening process. So maybe it means we go out there 2 weeks earlier.
Right.
I'm not entirely sure. And then I guess then we'll be ferried from A to B when we get out there. So you don't really see much of anything apart from the hotel room and then the diving pool.
There's no comparison really, Jerry, is there, with like kind of Olympians, whether it's what he's doing, swimming, diving, or athletes, and what the kind of Premiership footballers or basketballers are experiencing, really. You say to a Premiership player, look, you're going to be missing 2 weeks of the season. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
I'll put the Netflix on like we've
60
been talking
games
about.
a season,
Yeah, for the Olympians, once every 4 years, and the whole training schedule all kind of build into that kind of 1 point. What's at stake? It's absolutely huge, Ollie, isn't it? It is huge, totally different, like, you know what I mean? So it's almost a desperation there. I know it's an obvious thing. It's an easy thing for footballers to say, oh, well, it's all about, safety. But when you've committed so much You're invested so much in that 4-year period to arrive at that one point.
Yeah, and it's not just a 4-year investment either. It's a whole lifespan of starting when you're 7, 8 years old on that poolside and the family investments as well. It's not just yourself, it's a whole team effort to get you there for that one moment over those 2 weeks.
And are you running through the various scenarios if this was postponed for a couple of years, like was in the papers yesterday? What would that mean? Like, are you prepared for every eventuality, or is there a possibility, like, I don't know what your retirement plans were. I know you're in college at the moment, so obviously you've already begun to plan for life after diving, but what if it is a 2-year wait? Are you like...
Well, I'm relatively healthy. I'm sure I could keep on kicking for another 2 years. And even having said that, I was even considering going to attempt to try and qualify for the Olympics in 2024.
Okay. So this is...
Yeah, there's life in me yet.
Okay,
and,
fair enough.
That won't be the case for other athletes. This 2-year extent might actually see a few off. This could be the last shot at it. Like,
and for some countries as well, when it comes to your own personal funding, we're very lucky in Ireland that we get Sport Ireland funding, but there's some countries where athletes don't get funded. So to then carry on for another 2 years when they're coming to the end of their career, to sustain a lifestyle of trying to train 6 days a week, have a full-time job as well. So it's I mean, universally, it's going to be tough for a lot of people.
So the best case scenario is obviously that somehow a vaccine emerges and everybody starts to see a massive reduction in the numbers of people who are impacted. That's unlikely to happen. The most realistic scenario is that a lot of countries experience a boom in the number of confirmed cases, and that more countries follow what Denmark have done and what Italy have done and go into complete lockdown. In that scenario, what do you think is most likely to happen, and what do you want to happen?
I think it always comes down to health and safety first. Like I said at the beginning, there's things bigger than sport at the end of the day, which is people's livelihoods, and we all have family members, some who are vulnerable as well. So it's a very tricky situation to be in, but for me, I'd always follow the advice I'm given by the doctors at the Institute, who I dare say get their information from doctors higher up down the line, government officials, and also the World Health Organization as well. And I think for each country as well, it's not just the same proposition. I think it has to be tailor-made to each country, because some countries are kind of suffering a lot worse than others as well. So it's if we don't get to compete at the Olympics, that's life at the end of the day, and it's unfortunate, but at the same time, I mean, for me, diving, it's not going to be my whole life, and there's so much more to look forward to in life as well. So it's if we get to go, I'll put myself in the most healthiest position possible.
All right, well, we wish you the best of luck. We'll obviously keep up to date with what's happening on that scenario as it unfolds. Final text from today from Issel Cody: people have free will, so just choose not to go to sports events and force sports bodies to postpone. It's disappointing more didn't turn out to be responsible with Cheltenham. Hashtag OTB AM. That's your lot from OTB AM this morning. Do stay tuned. Our Cheltenham preview show with thanks to Paddy Power is up next. If you're listening on OTB Sports Radio, you're going to hear Rishtar's Rugged Thing. That's either via the Go Loud app or offtheball.com/radio. If you're on YouTube, a new stream is going to appear momentarily. Off the Ball back in your radios tonight from 7 o'clock. Reaction to day 3 of the festival. Brian O'Driscoll in studio, and of course the football show and the unfolding story of the coronavirus and the impact that it's having on sport and the world beyond will be covered blow by blow on offtheball.com for you today. This morning we had the sports pages. The top 5 stories: John Duggan live from Cheltenham. Football with Kenny, Kavitha Davidson on the NBA's decision overnight to postpone all their games. Oliver Dingley was obviously in studio with us on the doubts around the Olympics. Bernard O'Byrne and Basketball Ireland's decision to postpone all their activity as well. Stay tuned for our Paddy Power Cheltenham show. Kevin Caban is in studio with Adrian tomorrow. We'll see you in a minute.
Richard's Rugger Thing.